Good morning. Am I audible, students?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks. So, is there any question? Is there any doubt? Any comment on the last class things? Okay. Let me proceed. And if you have questions, please ask. So we had shown that what a converter, buck converter, that is the name, buck converter. Buck means reduce, buck converter. It is bucking the thing. That means bucking the input voltage. The input voltage is Vg and it is bucking it. That means the output voltage V0 is less than Vg. So what it means is output voltage is less than the input voltage. And I have shown that there are two switches, and the switches are not really independent switches. If Q is on, then Q bar is off, and so on and so forth. If this is on, this is off. If this is on, this is off, and vice versa. So two switches and one inductor and one capacitor makes one buck converter. This is the R is the load. This is a DC circuit. There is no question of using RL load. Essentially, this is a DC circuit, so load is resistive, whatever it is, whatever its magnitude may be, value may be, it is always resistive. This is L, this is C. We denote this current as IL, and we denote this voltage, this current through the capacitor as IC, and output voltage we denote it as V0 plus minus convention. This is Vg, and the current through this source we consider this as Ig. So this is how we'll be naming the parameters Q, Q bar, L, C, IL, IC, and the load resistance is R, the output voltage is V naught. Now, if you look at it, that we have shown earlier also that on state equivalent circuit is Q is on. This is the on state equivalent circuit. So let me show this is how we are turning on. This is Q, Q on and Q off. This is our TS is the period. This is the on period. We will now say that it is equal to DTS, D being the duty ratio, and this is off. Q bar is turned on here. So Q bar is on here and Q is on there. So this is how the pulsing of the switches is determined, so this is the equivalent circuit, means when we'll say Q is on, which essentially also means Q bar is off. So this situation, the inductor current is IL. So the IL and the capacitor current is IC. The load current, I may call it I naught, which is nothing but I will write it as V naught by R. And this is VG, and this is IG is the input current. We can see that during this situation, so IG equal to IL. The inductor current is now coming from the input, and the voltage across the inductor is VG minus V naught is equal to L into delta IL by the on time, that is DTS, right? So this is the equation that will write. Delta IL is the ripple on this one. So delta IL, we can write it as delta IL is equal to VG minus V naught DTS by L. We have already seen that VG minus V naught, we have seen from the volt second balance that VG under steady state, VG is equal to dV naught. V naught is equal to dVG. We have seen that by L into DTS. So we can write it as VG into 1 minus D into DTS by L. So we can write it as, now VG into D, again you can combine these two things. So that is dVG is nothing but V naught into 1 minus D TS by L. So that is the inductor ripple during on time. This is the inductor current. You can see that this one. Our assumption being that V naught is equal to constant. So this line must be linear because VG is assumed to be constant as it is a very slowly varying quantity during the time we are considering. So during DTS, if I want to draw DTS, I will assume that this slope is constant. You can see the slope also. The slope is how much? Slope is nothing but Vg into Vg minus V naught by L. So this is the slope. Slope is nothing but Vg minus V naught by L. That is the slope of the current. You can now also can write it as Vg into 1 minus D by L. That you can write. So this is what is the slope of the inductor current, right? This is the on time equivalent circuit. I also want to now okay, I will do it later. So during off time, what is happening is during off time That means when Q is off and Q bar is on, that time equivalent circuit will be shown as this Vg is not now connected, it is floating, and the inductor current is flowing through this switch Q bar. This switch Q bar, this is the capacitor, and this is the load resistor. So this voltage is V0 and this current is IC. Okay, so one thing I had written that Ig is equal to IL. Similarly, I also can write that from Kirchhoff's law that during this time IL is equal to I0 plus IC. That I can write, right? Kirchhoff's law. I'm not writing anything new from the Kirchhoff's law. I'm just defining every node equations and finding out the ripple quantities. The objective of this is steady state analysis, but under steady state, this being a periodic kind of Q and Q bar inputs are there. So the response of the every state variable, we are calling them the state variable, inductor current and capacitor voltage, will also be periodic in nature. That is what the linear circuit theory says. If you give a periodic input, you will get a periodic output, same period. Okay, so now this is the IL. So what is the ripple now? The ripple will be, you can see that one end is 0, another end is V0. So I don't change the convention, polarity convention. So I will now say the slope is V0 by L, and how much duration it is? 1 minus dTs is equal to delta IL. You may notice that you are immediately able to notice and compare that these two things are equal, and you understand that they have to be equal. Why they have to be equal? That under steady state, the inductor current, the initial value of the inductor current, that means this value, if we call it the initial value, has to be equal to the final value. So these two values have to be equal. These two values have to be equal. That's why you are seeing that the magnitude wise, the ripple, in one case it is V0 into 1 minus dTs by L. In another case also it is V0 by L into 1 minus dTs. Right. So these two things are equal, and the slope here is V0 by L with a negative sign, because the inductor current is reducing now. So inductor current has a trapezoidal kind of shape. It is continuous, and then in the next cycle again it is starting from here. It will again start from here. That is under steady state, right? So because we are always using the steady state property, like Vg is equal to, we are using V0 is equal to dVg. This is the steady state condition, and because of this steady state condition being applied here, we are getting that the current at the beginning of the period, the inductor current at the beginning of the period is equal to the inductor current at the end of the period, and therefore delta IL by any which way you can compute. You can compute from the negative slope. In this case, it is easy to compute from the negative slope because you are not doing any calculation. Negative slope is V0 by L, and the time, this is the V0 by L, this is the slope, and this is the duration, 1 minus dTs. So we have seen that since V0 is equal to dVg, during the, if you have calculated delta IL from the on-state equivalent circuit, you would have got the same value. You would have got the same value. One case it is positive and another case is negative, implying that the current is, inductor current is returning back to the same initial condition with which this period it had started building. So this is the profile of the inductor current, and we know that. Oh, one thing I request you to observe that in the delta IL expression, you can clearly see that there is a TS switching period is coming in. The TS being more, if the TS is more, then the inductor current will be more, right? Not inductor current, the ripple quantity will be more. So let me take a page and tell you. So what I am saying is that delta IL, that expression is, I'm talking about only the magnitude, V naught by L into 1 minus d Ts, right? So Ts, if Ts increases, then delta IL increases. So in order to have a small ripple, it is preferable that we go for a high frequency. That is why the requirement of the high frequency is coming. That, or indirectly speaking, if I want to take a certain amount of ripple for a given inductor, I would like to manage that by adjusting the switching frequency. Let's take then the ripple factor. This is just the ripple, but the ripple factor is defined as delta IL by IL. This IL is nothing but the average inductor current. IL is the average inductor current. Average inductor current. So what is average inductor current in this case? What is the average value of this waveform? The average value of this waveform you can calculate from the area, or you also know that this profile waveform, I can easily calculate what is the area of this. What is the area is, there is one triangle, half into this is delta IL. Let the initial current be defined as I naught. So what is the area? Half into delta IL into Ts. This time period is Ts plus I naught into Ts divided by Ts. That must be IL. So we can see that it is nothing but I naught plus delta IL by 2. So the average quantity, average inductor current is just passing through the middle point of the ripple. It has a pedestal value of I naught, initial current, plus delta IL by 2. So this quantity is delta IL by 2. This is the current, right? This is the average current, and we indicate it by capital IL. Capital IL will be indicating the average inductor current. Now, if we look at the circuit, this circuit one more time, if we look at the circuit, this is the on time. This inductor current is equal to inductor current is IL is equal to IC plus IR. During off time also, this current is IL is equal to IC plus IC. This IL is equal to IC plus IR or I naught, what I wrote, IC plus IC plus I naught. So I'm writing IC plus I naught. This is the I naught is the load current. So in both cases, this current is given by this Kirchhoff's law. So I write this now. I write IL is equal to IC plus I naught all the time. So I integrate IL dt 0 to Ts, okay, and average it. That means 1 by Ts. I do 1 by Ts 0 to Ts IC dt plus 0 to Ts 1 by Ts I naught dt. I am doing an averaging of the basic equation. Basic Kirchhoff law equation is this: IL is equal to IC plus I naught, valid during TS. This is not switching. This is always continuous equation. This part of the circuit, there is no effect of the switch. During on time also, current inductor current IL is equal to IC plus I naught. I am talking about this as the instantaneous current. When I am writing in small letters, I am meaning instantaneous current. During off time also, this current is equal to IL is equal to IC plus I naught. So I am just doing an averaging of this quantity. So if I do the averaging of this quantity, what I get, you already know, I get I capital L. That is the average inductor current. And average capacitor current over the switching period under steady state must be equal to 0. And this I naught current is essentially constant, because I naught is nothing but V naught by R, and we are saying delta V naught is very small, so we'll assume that is equal to capital V naught by R, and this integration, that means V naught by R into TS by TS, so it cancels. So we get capital IL is equal to V naught by R. This, after some time, you can understand by even observation. There is nothing big deal in this. Any circuit in an average sense, the capacitor current will be 0. So the average inductor current must be equal to average load current. And average load current is V naught by R. V naught being the V naught is the average of the output voltage. V naught is considered to be the average of the output voltage in definition. But this average voltage and instantaneous voltage, there is very little difference. It has a little bit ripple, but that is much smaller in quantity than what the inductor current ripple is. So, but you don't have to use even that principle, because I am defining V naught as the average output voltage. So let me write it somewhere. We define V naught as, not here, we are defining V naught. V naught is equal to average output voltage. So this equation is holding good irrespective of this thing, because it's average. I'm using the principle of average. So this is the average condition of the thing. So the ripple factor, what I am defining as the ripple factor, that is delta I, let me write delta IL by IL, that is the ripple factor of the inductor current, obviously of the inductor current, ripple factor of the conductor. So what was the formula? Magnitude wise, it was V naught by L, this is the slope, 1 minus dTs was the duration. So that means that was the delta IL, and IL is now we are getting is equal to V naught by R. So V naught cancels, and this is becoming then R by L into 1 minus D into TS. So here also you are saying the ripple factor is dependent on TS. The conversion ratio was not dependent on TS, but the ripple factor was dependent on it. And this makes the design, this makes the designer to choose an appropriate TS. Here you can see that for a people will say for a given, they will say that let us take our example. Example of 10 volt to 4 volt converter, and what was the example? 10 volt is equal to Vg, 4 volt is equal to V naught, therefore D was 0.4, and now let me define that I want to, and therefore R was how much? R was the current, I think I had taken, R was 1 ohm, because current I had taken as 4 ampere. I had taken I naught is equal to 4 ampere, that was taken. That means that is also equal to IL, right? Let us say that I have to choose the inductor in this case situation to satisfy the ripple factor, current ripple factor, which they will give to the designer as a specification. This will come to you as a specification. Your job is to choose. You cannot choose R. You cannot choose R. You can choose L and TS. You cannot choose D. You cannot choose D. The moment VG and V0 are specified, D is given to you. R also you cannot choose, right? So essentially, IL is also decided. What you can choose now is switching period or the switching frequency, and corresponding to the switching frequency, the value of the inductor that you require. So what you will do is, let us choose the inductor value. So inductor value will be L if we do this way. So L is equal to R into 1 minus D TS by this ripple factor, delta IL by IL, right? That is the inductor that will be required. Now for a given thing, you can clearly see, you look at the equation and you can clearly see, if somebody keeps specification wise, they don't say anything other than this ratio. Let us say this ratio, they are asking it to be not more than 40%. Let us say they are asking it not to be not more than delta IL by IL, not to be not more than 40%. Okay, so as a designer, what would you do? What would be your tendency here? Can you tell me? That means I am saying the specification wise, delta IL by IL is equal to 0.4 given. Suppose you are not choosing it, right? And you are supposed to choose the value of L. So what way, what direction, in which direction you will choose the switching period in this case, switching period or switching frequency in this case? What will you give? What will give you advantage in terms of size? Can you see the advantage of choosing a low value of TS here? Because if you choose a low value of TS, you will get a low value of the inductor. And the low value of the inductor implies that you will be able to maintain the ripple. That is not a problem. You will be able to maintain the ripple, but your size of the converter will come down because you are choosing L with the value of L that would be requiring is coming down as you are choosing low value of TS. Low value of TS implies high value of switching frequency. So therefore, it is always beneficial to reduce the converter dimension, converter size. The converter size can be reduced only by reducing the size of the passive components, the inductors and capacitors. So in this case, if you choose a high frequency thing, you would be able to get a lower value of the inductors, but still able to maintain the same specification. Delta IL by IL is 40%. That means in one case, let us say you choose a switching frequency of 100 kilohertz. So 100 kilohertz, what will be the value of L? Let's calculate. If you have a calculator, please do it. So R was 1 ohm. This is into 0.6. 100 TS is 10 microsecond. TS is 10 microsecond because 100 kilohertz. And delta IL by IL is 0.4. So how much is it coming out to be? Inductance, that is 6 by 0.4. So that is 6 divided by 15 microhenry.
15
right? 15 microhenry, right? If you had done the same design at 10 kilohertz switching frequency, this is corresponding to 100 kilohertz. This is corresponding to 100 kilohertz. But if you had done this design at 10 kilohertz, you have to still maintain delta IL by IL 0.4. Then this is corresponding to L1. L1 is 2. Then otherwise this L2 will be equal to 150 microhenry when you are choosing 10 kilohertz. And 150 microhenry is 10 times more. 10 times more. Because energy, what actual size of the inductor depends upon Li square. Just L is not the correct way to speak, but in these cases, both the cases, the I is same. I is 4 ampere, which is essentially decided by the load. Nobody can change it. That is decided by the load resistance of R1. So in one case, the energy will be, let me take a page. In one case, the energy will be half into 15 micro into 4 square. In another case, it will be half into 150 micro into 4 square. So this will have significant implication in the size or the volume, size or volume of the magnetics. This volume of the passive component depends upon energy. You should remember that. You should remember that. In this case, the I being the same, which is dictated by the load, the value of the inductor directly is directly deciding the size of the magnetic component. In this case, the inductor, and therefore we have tremendous benefit if you reduce the switching frequency. As much reduction of switching frequency or as much increase of the as much reduction of the switching period and as much induction of the switching frequency is desirable in the design. Okay, this is I'm talking about the inductor. We'll see the similar thing is coming in the case of capacitor as well. So let us see how is it coming in the case of the capacitor. That's why we insist that increase the frequency. But you may say, sir, then what is limiting you? You can go to any frequency. No, we'll see that later, that if you increase the switching frequency, there is something, and we have implied that there is something called switching loss. Switching loss means when it is moving from on state to off state. The way it is moving during on state to off state or off state to on state, it is encountering some losses during the process of this movement, because it cannot move across clearly all the time along this axis. It is not possible. Had it been possible, then it would have been correct. But it will be moving slightly, practical case, it will be slightly moving away from that. And therefore, there will be loss, because there is simultaneously voltage and current across the device. What we want is always the device will have, if there is a voltage across the device, there is no current through the device. If there is a current through the device, there is no voltage across the device. That is what we want. But that is practical device, it is not always possible. It is not possible. So therefore, at higher frequency, you will see that beyond a specific value, the loss is becoming so much that you are not able to handle that kind of loss within the device, and the efficiency is suffering, etc., etc. So there is a practical limit of your intention to increase the switching frequency, that it will be limited. So this is as far as the inductor is concerned. So let's see what is the capacitor voltage ripple, and there is more stringent requirement so far as capacitor voltage is concerned, because the capacitor ripple has to be ripple factor has to be much smaller than the inductor ripple factor. Inductor ripple, you see, I have taken as 40%. 40% is not so small, but it is not against anything. You can have that value. Okay, you can have 40%, but you cannot afford to have a 40% ripple in the capacitor voltage. So your choice of capacitor has to be dictated by that. So how do we choose the capacitor under steady state? So again, we look at the current waveform. This is the inductor current waveform we had drawn, and this is the average value of the current waveform. I call it V0 by R. This is the average value of the current waveform. This is delta IL, and this is the middle of that, and this is DTS, and this is 1 minus DTS, that is off period, right? And we have to find out what is the capacitor voltage. So we will do it this way. We will do this way. We already know that C into d V0 by time, let us say dt. I am writing here like that. C dV by dt is equal to IC. That is the basic equation. So uh, d v naught is equal to IC dt by C. That is the voltage ripple this thing. Now I integrate dv naught, right? So that integration I will find out the time 0 some time t1 to t2, sometime t1 to t2 is equal to integration of IC dt by C of t1 by t2. Now you know qualitatively what is happening? What is happening if this is the inductor current, this is the load current, right? So what is the current through the capacitor? What is the current through the capacitor? IC. What is IC? IC is equal to IL. This is IL. This I call it IL, and this is V naught by R. So IC is equal to, basic equation of IC is equal to IL, instantaneous IL by V naught by R. V naught by R is I'm saying that current, that part of the current is constant, because we have to make sure that V naught has very little ripple. So assuming that is true, now we are writing this equation as otherwise you should write it as small V naught by R. That also will not change anything. So what about the current profile of the capacitor current? You have to subtract it, IL minus this V naught by R. So if you subtract it, you will get what waveform? This is subtraction. I do the subtraction and I get, right? This is the middle point. This is the middle point. I have drawn it. So the peak is happening here, and another one is happening here. So this is the current profile of the capacitor current, right? That is the capacitor current profile, right? So that is the capacitor current profile, and this is the current. So I should write it as IC, right? You have understood. I have just subtracted the instantaneous inductor current. I have just subtracted V naught by R from the instantaneous inductor current, and I have got the capacitor current here. So you see that this is the 0. This is the 0 ampere. This is the 0 ampere actually capacitor current. So you see, you must understand that even if I don't want to be too much fussy about the shape of the voltage ripple, I am only interested to know how much is the magnitude of the voltage ripple. I am not interested in knowing what will be the exact shape of the voltage waveform. I want to know what is the peak value. That's all my interest is. So qualitatively, I can draw the capacitor voltage ripple as, you can take a color here. I can qualitatively draw, because here you see the current is positive. The current is positive means capacitor is effectively charging. So wherever may be at that point, whatever may be its initial voltage, let's say its initial voltage is this place. So whatever may be the initial voltage, it is, since this is positive, this current is positive up to this duration, the peak ripple must have reached here. Initially, maybe it is charging with certain, because it is an integration process, so it is going up. Then little bit later, it is negative. It is becoming reducing. So its charging profile may be going somewhat like this. Somewhat like this. What I am saying this, I am not interested in just knowing the equation of intermediate portion. I am just interested in knowing what will be the magnitude of this. What will be the magnitude of this portion? Only this portion. This I define it as delta V naught. This is what I am defining as delta V naught. Then what will be happening? Here the current is negative. Here the current is negative. So it must have had a declining slope in this portion. So it must be starting from somewhere. I don't know. I'm not too much interested also knowing. I only know that this will be decreasing, because the current is negative, and here also it will be decreasing. Here also it will be, because the current is negative. So negative means voltage is decreasing, positive means voltage is increasing. And because I am imposing the condition of steady state, these 2 points must be equal. I am imposing the condition of steady state here, right? So this is delta V naught that we will be interested in computing. So our case T1 is what instant? I have said T1 to T2. So in our case T1 is which instant? This is instant of T1. This is the instant of T1. In our case, what is the instant of T2? This is the instant of T2. Because I am just interested in calculating delta V naught and through integration, right? So through integration, if I want to do, I have to integrate only between T1 to T2 to get the magnitude of delta V naught, right? So what is T1 and what is T2? From observation, we can easily, and from mathematics also, we can easily see that this is a slope. T1 must be where? Can anybody tell what is T1? What is the value of T1? Can anybody say? What is the value of T1? T1, this is the slope, and the current is reaching the value of V naught by R at this point, right? And V naught by R is going through the middle of this. So from similarity triangle, similar triangle, principle of similar triangle, what can I say? T1 must be dTs by 2. Yes or no? The T1, when it reaches this value, T1 must be equal to dTs by 2. Right? Right? Similarly, T2 must be equal to what? dTs plus half of that remaining period, 1 minus dTs by 2. Okay, so T1 minus T2 is how much? T1 minus T2? T1 minus T2 or T2 minus T1. So T2 minus T1 is equal to how much? dTs by 2 plus 1 minus dTs by 2. So it is equal to Ts by 2. So this integration is I should do between, I am now making 1 0 to this essential duration. Let me keep it like that. So let me say that this is the integration of IC, positive value of IC. I'm now making the 0 shift to this point. So I will say that delta V naught is equal to IC into dt. Okay, integration between.
Sir, can you explain how T1 is dTs by 2? That part.
I will explain. I'll take a new page. This is dTs. Now this is delta IL, and this thing is going through the middle of this. This one is V naught by R, right? I am saying this time. This is linear. This is linear. This is going delta IL. This is linear, and this is middle of delta IL. So if you do a triangle similarity, so this delta IL it reaches in, that is delta IL by dTs must be delta IL by 2 by dTs by 2, isn't it? So this time is, if I call this time as T1, that time must be equal to dTs by 2. That must be dTs by 2.
Okay, sir, understood.
This is linearly increasing, right? It goes from there to there in delta IL in a time dTs. So how much time it takes to go to this? That must be dTs by 2. Similarly, while falling, this must be 1 minus dTs by 2. This must be 1 minus dTs by 2. So this duration must be simply Ts by 2, this duration, when the current is positive and the capacitor voltage is increasing, right? So so that is simply I have to find out the charge of this duration. So that charge is how much? That charge is half into base Ts by 2 into height. Height is delta IL by 2. That must be charge. And voltage delta V naught is equal to Q by C. So what is this? That is 1 by 8 into delta IL into Ts by C. That is the capacitor voltage ripple. And what is delta IL? 1 by L. Delta IL I had earlier found out. So that is V naught into 1 minus D Ts by L. That is the delta IL into Ts by C. Okay, so that is equal to 1 by 8 V naught 1 minus D Ts square by Lc. So that is the voltage ripple. Voltage ripple is, again I repeat, that it is happening magnitude wise in this zone, This is where it is some value, and till this value it is increasing. It has to increase. After that it will decrease, and here also it is decrease, because these are negative slope. The capacitor current is this. The capacitor current 0 is located here. 0 is located here. The capacitor current 0 is located here. So since this is negative, it will fall. Since this is positive, it will rise, and this. So how much is the voltage increase? Ultimately, delta V naught voltage increase during this period is the total voltage decrease in the remaining period. So how much is the voltage increase? How much voltage increase is in this simple case, the amount of charge that has gone in divided by the C, by the capacitor. So how much charge has gone in? The area, half into base into height. Base is how much? Base is Ts by 2, and the height is delta IL by 2. So we get, after that we just simply do this thing, and we get delta V naught is this. And here you see delta V naught by V naught is equal to, just V naught cancels, 1 by 8 Lc into 1 minus D into Ts square. So this is the expression for the voltage ripple, right? So voltage ripple is a factor, is a function of both inductor, capacitor, and square of the Ts. So as it is being square of the Ts, it can be made much smaller than it is square of the Ts. So effect of that is much more prominent here. Switching frequency is much more prominent here, and by increasing the switching frequency, you can afford to choose the same voltage ripple. And now you can put your voltage ripple. You can put the voltage ripple delta V naught by V naught is equal to, let us say I will do it for 2%. 2%. That means 0.02 if I am dictating it that. So let us find out what is the C. So let us find out C is equal to 1 minus D Ts square by 8L into 0.02. So let us say this is 0.6. Ts square is 10 micro square divided by 8 into 15 micro into 0.02. So can anybody calculate and tell me what is this value? Yeah, I am getting 25 microfarad. So this is the value of the capacitance that you are getting. You just now see, had it been 100 micro, how much, by how much amount this would have increased? It would have increased by 100 times, right? So this capacitance value is, so what is the energy of a capacitance? How do you define? Half C into V square. V square is, here the output voltage is 4. So this is the value of the energy content of the capacitor. So this content is much smaller because the C is 25 microfarad. At a switching frequency of 100 kilohertz, you will get a much better advantage if you are choosing higher frequency compared to the 10 kilohertz switching frequency. So this emphasizes the need to have a higher. We are not compromising on the ripple factor. We are choosing the same ripple, 2% ripple. Suppose this is the specification. This is a specification. You don't have a hand on it. You don't choose it. You are, as a designer, you are choosing only the passives, and from the prior knowledge, you are trying to increase the switching frequency to the maximum extent you can increase it. That is your thing. So if 100 kilohertz is the switching frequency that you have chosen, which is a decent switching frequency for a power like this, it is not a very high power converter. It is a 16 watt converter. But if the power, sometimes the power converters are very low wattage, sometimes they are even 2-3 watt, then you can even choose a 500 kilohertz or 1 megahertz switching frequency. And the power converters that are now designed using integrated circuits, they even go to 10 megahertz, but their wattage will be some milliwatts. They will be simply supplying some small digital load, some small digital circuitry, things like that. So those cases it can be even higher. So your moral of the story is, you just first find out at that power what maximum switching frequency you can handle. If you know that, then you choose the value of the capacitor. Use that, the highest possible switching. Don't make yourself choose arbitrarily a low switching. If you arbitrarily choose 25 kilohertz, but maybe you can afford to go to 50 kilohertz, go there. Don't go to 25 kilohertz because it has consequence on the size of the converter. So this is what how your selection of the two major components, inductors and capacitors, are performed. And we will be following the same technique everywhere. Same technique everywhere means other converter topologies also. You have to find out what is the technique. Technique is first find out delta IL. Delta IL. First find out from the volt second balance condition. You find out delta. For that you don't have to take because volt second balance has already happened. You either take the equation during on time or you take the equation during off time. Only one, during on time or during off time you take. Similarly, for the capacitor thing, you find out what is the capacitor current waveform. Then you find out find out the duration for which the current is positive. And during that positive duration, the ripple happens. Whatever the value of the capacitor voltage, it only increases. You could have also chosen the negative duration when the current is negative, but don't mix up positive negative. Don't mix up. You take either full positive duration or full negative duration. So that duration you find out, and find out how much charge is going in by simply integrating that curve. I have just nothing but this is an integration. Charge, this is half base into this is an integration. Since the shape is very regular, we can use the triangle area, the formula of the triangle's area. But it is nothing but integration. I've integrated IC dt during this period. And that must be, the IC dt must be the charge. That divided by C is the voltage, delta V naught. So we have done this, this thing. What is the voltage increase in this period in this manner? Okay. So now I will give this converter, this is the buck converter, I will give this converter a shape. What do you mean? What do I mean by shape? Means physical switches. I will draw it with physical switches. So if I draw with physical switches, how do we do? It has to do the job. So what job that switch has to do, the main switch Q, it has to block a voltage and it has to take current in one direction. Okay, so therefore we can choose a, this diode I am drawing is actually an anti-parallel diode. Okay, this is the arrow, this is the drain, this is the source, and this is the gate. You already know the terminals. So and the signal is applied between, control signal or the gate signal is applied here, gate to source. If you give a positive value greater than threshold, you will be turning on, and less than threshold it will be turning off. But in order to reduce the conduction loss, we normally give much higher than the much higher than the threshold voltage. Threshold voltage may be 2.5 volt. This is called VGST, maybe 2.5 volt. But we drive it with much higher voltage. VGST may be 12 volt. We drive it so that RDS on is less. RDS on, if RDS on is less, then the conduction loss is less. You have to take care of everything. You have to think about reducing the conduction loss. You have to think about reducing the switching loss so that the efficiency is improved. That is the most important thing in a power converter, right? Efficiency, and next importance is the size. So this is how the VG is there. So this is the node. Then another switch has to be put. So in this case, we can afford to put a passive switch like a diode, because I said Q and Q bar, right? It is Q, I am saying it is Q bar. When the moment you turn off the switch, you can see that the inductor current will force the diode to conduct. Inductor current always has to have a path, right? Inductor current always has to have a path. So inductor current, if you have turned off this switch, switch Q, the inductor current is not finding any path, and while finding it path, it will automatically find a path through the diode. You don't actually require a an active switch here. As long as the inductor current is continuous, the inductor current will force this diode to conduct. Diode cannot choose to remain off. It has to conduct because inductor current is there. Otherwise, energy, this energy itself, you are trying to what to say, discontinue the energy in no time. That is not allowed. Energy cannot be handled in a discontinuous manner. You can handle voltage in a discontinuous manner, okay, in certain cases, not in a capacitor. You cannot handle inductor current in a discontinuous manner in an inductor. In a discontinuous manner means it has to come down with a slope. It can become zero. It is not that I am not saying inductor can never be zero. It can be zero, but it cannot be discontinued sharply, right? Like in a square manner. You cannot reduce the inductor current in this manner. That is not allowed. If you want to reduce the inductor current, reduce it to with a slope and then bring it to zero. So this being not allowed, a current has developed and you have turned off the switch. This inductor current is forced to flow through this diode during the off time. So here one diode is good enough. So now you see what is happening here is that when you turn on, suppose you have turned on by giving 12 volt at this, and to turn off it is enough to give 0 volt. 0 volt will be off state of the switch. That is enough. It is an enhancement mode MOSFET, and so therefore this current will be flowing from drain to source. In on state, it is flowing to drain to source and going to the inductor. And during off state, what you have done, you have turned off. It will be blocking a voltage equal to how much voltage it will block. It will block because the diode is conducting. On the offstate, diode is conducting. So this voltage is 0 volt. This voltage is 10 volt. So it will be blocking a voltage of 10 volt. Diode drop I am ignoring. Diode drop has certain small value, but I am ignoring. So essentially it will block like that, and during on time it will be operating at 4 ampere, and the off time it will be blocking a voltage of 10 volt. What about the diode? Diode, when Q is on, then is Q bar automatically off? Yes, Q bar is automatical because 10 volt is then coming here. 10 volt is coming here if the switch is on, and the moment 10 volt is coming here, this diode will turn off, and inductor current has no problem. It has got a continuous path through this, right? So earlier state, in the off state, diode was conducting, but the moment you have turned on this, the diode will automatically be off because it has seen negative voltage. Cathode is 10 volt, anode is 0 volt. So it is seeing reverse bias. So its current will commute and it will let the current to flow through the MOSFET, right? But the moment you turn off this, so that time it is blocking how much voltage? This point is 10 volt and this point is 0 volt. So it is also blocking a voltage, or blocking voltage is 10 volt. Blocking voltage is equal to VG, or the input voltage. But when you have turned off, the main MOSFET Q, then the diode D is automatically coming into play, because this inductor current will force this to be flowing. So if you put a diode wrongly, suppose you have put a diode wrongly, how many ways it is wrong? It is wrong in various ways. First way wrong is that there is a short circuit. This main switch is on and the diode on, there is a path, there is this thing, short circuit will be happening. There will be short circuit here. So that way it is also wrong. Second way it is wrong is the inductor current is not getting a proper path. It cannot flow from cathode to anode. It has to flow from anode to cathode. So therefore the diode anode cathode position is important. It has to block voltage when the main switch is on, and it has to conduct when the main switch is off. So in such cases, the buck converter, and this is the more conventional way of doing buck converter, because of the reason that another switch means another diodes are less expensive, and not only that, in order to have if we had an active switch in place of diode, it would have required a gate drive, because it also then has to be turned on and turned off. But when we do that, that kind of switch is called a synchronous. It is not illegal to put it. It is not wrong to have a switch there. This that is also both. This type of converters are called synchronous buck converters. Why the name synchronous? Because this Q and QR has to be synchronized. They are not arbitrarily. When Q is on, Q bar is off, and so on and so forth. And when Q bar is on, Q is off. Q bar is on, Q is off. So this has to be the pulsing structure, right? So this is why it is known as synchronous buck converter. So what is the difference in operation? There is certain difference in operation, and that will be this is called synchronous buck converter, because it has two active switches, Q and Q bar. Both of them have to be operated from by using some pulses. There has to be pulse between the gate and source of this G1 S1 and this G2 S2. There has to be gate pulses given to the high or low. The gate pulses have to be there to make them operating. And there is a little bit of think about that, what will be the difference in operation in this case. So that will take up in the next class. So you are not asking much questions. I don't know.